I don't know if you saw this past week, it might have been 2 weeks ago because I've been away. Did you see the eulogy that Kathy Lee Gifford gave to her husband, Frank Gifford? Who saw that? Just raise your hand. Now, I'm not a Kathy Lee Gifford fan, I have to tell you. I just think she talks too much. And that's from a talker. But I listened to her eulogy of her husband. Now, I'm friends with Kathy Lee's brother. I've known him since we were much, much younger. We haven't kept in touch, but she comes from a strong Christian family. Her brother's a pastor. And I thought, she just squawks away. And then I heard her give an 8-minute eulogy on primetime morning television, the Today Show. You got to hear it. Go to YouTube, pull it up, just Kathy Lee Gifford or Frank Gifford's eulogy. He was not a perfect man. She is not a perfect woman. But she talked about how he became a believer in Jesus Christ as a young child, and how his faith in Jesus Christ, not his faith in the Almighty, not his faith in a higher being, his faith in Jesus Christ transformed his life. He strayed. He did some stupid things. I'm a big fan of Frank Gifford. I loved his commentating. He was just one of those great commentators. And he did all those stupid things, but he kept his faith. And at the end of the day, as he was dying, he was ready to meet his Maker because he was a child of the King. He knew which door he was going through. And at the end of that little talk, Kathy Lee talked about going to Israel with Frank a few years before, and she said she went to the Valley of Elah, and there is the place where David fought Goliath. And the guy she was with said, go into the brook, which was dry season, and pick up a stone. Pick up a stone. It's 3,000 years later, but the stones are still there in the Valley of Elah. And she said, pick up a stone, he said to her and Frank. And they picked up a couple stones. And it transformed their thinking to realize that this boy, David, with a rock, changed the course of human history because God took a hold of the rock. David was talented. David was smart. David had a lot of skills. God didn't use any of those. He used just something. He said, pick up the rock. And she said they brought some home, gave to their kids, and he put it on his mantle, the rock. And she said, when people would come to their house, he wouldn't show them the Pro Bowl things. There wasn't a Super Bowl back then when he was in it, the Pro Championship trophies, his Emmys. He won 3 Emmys. Didn't show him any of that. He would take him to the rock. This rock is from the Valley of Elah as well. It was dry when we were there a few years ago, and we picked up a few rocks as well. And she ended her talk on primetime TV to say, what are you doing with what God has given you? Because some people say, he hadn't given me anything. Look at what this guy had. I don't have anything compared to this guy. And she said, just take what God has given you and throw it and see what God will do. What a lesson for us. What has God given you in your life? And are you using it? Oh, but we got excuses galore. David's brothers had the excuses. Saul had the excuses. The other army guys had the excuses. And David said, with me and God, all things are possible. Take what God has given you. And I believe he's given you a lot more than a stone, by the way. He has given you more than a stone. Take what he has given you and do something with it. Oh, you can hoard it for you and yourself and your family and you're just the tight ones. You still got to feed them. You have to house them. You have to clothe them. We're not talking about that. But take the extra and throw it for God and let him bring the increase. You throw it for God, he turns it into 30-fold more. He turns it into 60 times more. Jesus says even 100 times more. Is that amazing? Just let's go out and use what God has given us and make a difference in this world. Amen?